Dobry wieczór. Mogę mówić po polsku, ale będę po angielsku. I will tell a few words about myself. So yeah, my name is Oleg Chekan. I'm originally made in Belarus, so was born there, and I've spent already 15 years in software development on various roles. 5 years ago, I've relocated to Krakow and decided to stay here. So learning Polish, still not perfect, therefore we'll be delivering it in English. That's not my native language, so you should relax. I wouldn't be using hard words. Yeah, in my career, I've worked on different positions. Like right now, I'm leading technical pre-sale for Symphony Solutions, and also acting as a machine learning architect, cloud architect, service delivery manager, and in the past had experience working as CTO, product director, and QA manager. So got very wide experience in different areas of software development. I will tell you a few words about Symphony Solutions. This is basically a cloud and agile transformation company. It was founded, I think, more than 13 years ago, and it has around 400 people. Yeah, it's important point that our company tend to keep 50-50 gender balance to maintain healthy ratio in the teams. We have 4 delivery centers, 2 of them located in Poland, one in Krakow and one in Rzeszów, and also 2 more offices in Ukraine and Macedonia. Symphony Solution has a lot of international clients, most of them actually Europeans, but some of them are located in United States and in Asia. Yeah, just to outline our presence in the world, offices in the US, Netherlands, and Belgium are more focused on sales, and basically Eastern Europe is focused more on delivery. Okay, so and let me switch to the story. I'm going to tell you about one of our clients and one of our projects that we had to deliver at the beginning of this year. So the project itself was called Spot Test Corona. That actually means speed test Corona in English, but since this project was in Dutch in Netherlands, so we use Dutch language. This project was a startup, so this startup came to us on a very early stage when they had nothing. So basically they've created a new company, and they had a deal with a producer of the quick tests for coronavirus that allows you to perform antigen test within 15 minutes. That was express tests, and that time in Netherlands, this testing was quite expensive at that point of time. It was costing more than 100 euro per test, and there were not a lot of testing streets where you can make a test. And what was important that their government, Ministry of Health, were going to make antigen tests having same power as PCR tests. So basically, anyone who needs a PCR test can do antigen test. So there was a window of opportunity for this company, for the startup to start. But the problem was they had nothing. They had no software to run this business. And they desperately need to build a public website where people can book an appointment and select a location where they want to make a test. And also it was acting as a landing page for marketing campaigns as well. And at the same time, they had to build a back office where they can manage the flow of the testing, and where doctors can use it to set diagnoses, and system will send all the necessary notifications to the potential citizen of the Netherlands who wants to test himself against coronavirus. So he needs to get a result by email potentially, or get an SMS notification. And whenever a positive test is discovered, then a company needs to send a notification to government as well. And all of that cannot be done manually, because if it runs on a high scale, you would need a lot of people doing that. And we had an opportunity to build that, but in a very, very short time frame. We had just about 2 weeks to build an MVP solution, and in order to demo it for the Minister of Health in Netherlands. And basically, we've created a team very quickly, which includes both software development and marketing and designers working together on it. And we have built a website, web application, back office application, a website for marketing campaigns, and marketing team has built a digital strategy how to attract people. There was one big benefit, because we were offering tests at a much lower price. It was 40 euro comparing to 100 euro from other providers. And the reason for that, because actually as a startup, and they don't want to earn a fortune on it. They want to make coronavirus testing available to the people, so they can check themselves and don't pay a lot of money as well. On a slightly later stages, the cost of the testing was decreased to 20 euro. And with some of the projects we had, sub-projects with government, even offered free testing for some period of time. I will tell you a little bit more during the presentation, but let's now switch into technical part of it, and why we decided to build it in a serverless environment. That's a pretty important question. Exactly at that time, there were a lot of noise happening in the media around coronavirus testing and security and data privacy. What it means, because there were a lot of cases in the news about data leaks, thousands of data about thousands of people were leaked through COVID testing provider. This particular news from the beginning of the year, it was quite interesting. They have used the company who was doing coronavirus testing was using WhatsApp group for support. And basically they were sharing a lot of personal data in this WhatsApp group. And one day hackers got access to it and were able to download basically all the photos and all the content from the WhatsApp group. And a lot of personal data leaked. And these cases keep happening. Same happening in the United States. Later, France was hacked again. And again, yet another case in the Netherlands that due to data leak, people were able to get false test results. Or yet another test provider exposed patient data. It means security was from the very beginning very important for us, and it was made very clear that we have to build something that would be secure and compliant with the strict regulations. Because of this data breaches, government have put very, very serious scrutiny on on security and data privacy for coronavirus testing providers. And we took into serverless solutions provided by AWS, and most of them were designed for compliance with strict regulations like HIPAA and so on. We decided to go forward with it, especially taking into account that we had just a couple of weeks to bring a production system live. We had no time to build infrastructure. We had no time to secure it properly and so on. Instead, we decided, okay, let's borrow what AWS already built for others and use their protection and use their best practices in order to deliver our solution and shorten time to market. At that point of time, we had only one DevOps engineer available for the team, and there were no SysOps and so on, and that was looking like the only feasible solution to deliver it in such a quick manner. So what we have used in terms of serverless services. I'll probably tell most of the things you already know, but hope you will find something useful. So first of all, we needed to publish website. And the easiest solution is to use Amazon S3 as a storage for the static files, but also as a web server, which could be connected to CloudFront as a CDN network and distribute the static website part. In our case, it was Angular single page application. What's important that you can do it just with CloudFront and S3, but why I put Lambda Edge here? It's important because by default, CloudFront is not giving you ability to add any custom headers into the HTTP responses, and it means you cannot set security headers to protect your website. That's a bit strange part of AWS, but the only way to customize headers you are returning back to your user is to use Lambda Edge and create a Lambda function in JavaScript that will add these headers like that. So you just need to create very simple function and add all your headers, like restricting strictly to HTTPS, adding content security, or all this X-frame, XSS protection, and so on. And that was required. All these headers were required as a part of the certification of our solution, because government were running tests against the public website as well, and obviously they were checking some simple stuff like the headers. So you can achieve it with Lambda Edge. Basically that's for static part, but we also need some dynamics, means people would need to select a location where they want to make a test, they want to find a time when it's available and book it. From the very beginning, we made electronic appointment booking in order to avoid queues at the test locations, so people can reserve a 15-minute window when they can come and make a test. So they don't have to stay in a huge queue. They can just book time and come in a 15-minute interval, and the test will be made, and they will intersect with lowest amount of people in order to avoid coronavirus spreading. Therefore, we need a backend for the website, and the obvious solution is to use a combination of API gateway with Lambda as a backend application. And we have choose DynamoDB as our database to store the data. This combination is quite popular, and DynamoDB is somewhat similar to MongoDB, and which our developers were willing to use. But instead of bringing MongoDB, we decided to go with a managed service because installation and configuration of MongoDB would take a lot of time. Why not to use classic SQL database like with Postgre on RDS or Aurora and so on? In order to pass certification and obviously to get a license, we had to pass a certain security checklist, which includes a lot of like, it was a very long checklist, partly based on ISO 27001, which is like full InfoSec security certification, which like a young company, like a startup, never able to get in a couple weeks, but still they were willing to see that everything is secure and properly done. And a lot of points there were around how do you secure your servers, how do you access your servers, network, VPN, SSH, backups, all this stuff. If you have any server like database, you already need to do a lot of work and you need to prove that you do it properly. But if you are using managed service like DynamoDB, you don't have to do anything. It's just kind of you're pointing to the AWS documentation where they provide all the necessary details, and that's it, you're done. Yeah, an interesting part about application logs, like as any Lambda is integrated with CloudWatch to save the logs there. We have also used a nice feature provided by Amazon. Whenever you set up an alerts on something that, if something is going wrong in your system, like you're having errors, crashes, tracebacks, and so on, you can set up alerts and integrate it with AWS chatbot that will send beautiful notifications to your Slack, and development team will be aware that something is going wrong. So that's what we used as a very beginning for application monitoring and support. Okay, so let me move on to the next part of the system. Obviously, we had to have a back office, and that's where more complicated things came to us. So luckily, again, Amazon offers a lot of services which helps you to build such a system. So like Cognita is taking care about authentication, and API gateway is integrated with it, so you can validate your user if he is able to perform a certain request and so on. We have used custom mouse validation Lambda. That's because we were like our stakeholders had requested quite sophisticated permissions and roles structure, which sometimes based on a different location, like certain people can have access only to a certain location and so on. So we had to develop it a little bit customized and basically save all these users and permissions data into DynamoDB as well. Our backend was integrated with payment provider as well as some other integrations, and we had to store some API keys or passwords and so on. And Amazon is offering Secrets Manager as a secure and reliable service where you can store your sensitive data. And our backend was just using Secrets Manager to access the keys when needed. And yeah, as any solution, you need to communicate with users, but in our case, we need to communicate with users asynchronously. So user just came to the website, book an appointment, and get a confirmation. But then he comes to the real physical location and make a test. And in 15 minutes, he would need to get a result. And at this point of time, he's obviously somewhere on a street or like in his car, and unlikely that he will be on the website all this time. So we had to communicate with user via email and SMS. And Amazon comes handy with ready-to-use services like simple email service and simple notification service to communicate with users. This solution has its own pros and cons, which I will cover a bit later. And maybe I will also tell a bit of stories about operational issues that may happening in such case, but that was a solution we were able to deliver in a short period of time. Still integrating with simple email service and simple notification service takes time, because you can integrate it, no problem, but you cannot send a lot of messages, so you can send it only for testing purposes. And still you need to activate the services for production use, and you need to provide extra information to Amazon to have it enabled. And even if you do so, they will enable it gradually for you. So first they will allow, let's say, 1,000 emails per day. Then you can request an increase and increase it later. So you have to really monitor it closely. Okay, what kind of security measures we have applied on top of that? Incognita, there is a feature which we have used called federated login, and we have integrated with Gmail. Because the startup companies, they were using G Suite for their internal as their internal system for email, for management of the devices, and so on. So Gmail give us also a multi-factor authentication out of the box, and since this company was using Chromebooks and Google tablets for their hardware, it also integrates nicely with G Suite. So you can, for example, restrict that only certain users are able to log in on certain devices. That's also like further security hardening. And also you may introduce geographical restrictions that, for example, only login is allowed only from the Netherlands or Belgium. So you can add extra like security on a hardware level as well. A very important point for us was implementing proper application audit logs, because it's required by the healthcare standards. So we had to implement all the logging, like of any action, any API call, and some UI actions happening in the application supposed to be audited. One of the examples, copy and paste. Eventually we decided that it was easier to just disable it on the front end completely rather than audit it. And with the help of restrictions coming from the Google tablet or Chromebook, we were able to disable developer tools and so on. So this was done right. Another part of the security measures were around encryption. And what's important, originally we had our domains bought on GoDaddy, and when we were getting one of the certifications, there was a requirement to have DNSSEC enabled for our domain. It appears that GoDaddy supports it, but not for all gTLDs. And unfortunately, or maybe luckily, we had to migrate domain from the GoDaddy to Route 53 because Amazon Route 53 properly supports DNSSEC in all the GTLDs, while GoDaddy supports only for like .com and other big GTLDs. As a part of the verification, also we had to provide very special MX records for Google because we were using Gmail as email service, and there are special MX records with DNSSEC enabled on Google, which are not publicly available in the documentation of the Google, but you can find them because other people were struggling, and obviously you can use them. Yeah, the second part of the encryption requirements, basically everything should be encrypted at rest and in transit. And in our system, it was like easily achievable because on S3, you can enable server-side encryption. It's not enabled by default, so you should enable it. Don't forget about it. DynamoDB also supports encryption at rest and in transit, and all the services were already compliant. We just from our end, the only thing which was required is to make sure that all the security features are enabled and configured properly, which was quite easy to achieve. But then we got into like another problem, that part of the certification where we got a requirement to have extended validation SSL certificates, and this when a proper audit is happening about your company, and you get this expensive certificate. But the problem was that it was, lockdown at this point of time, and it was taking a while because there had to be a physical, like a person should physically come to your office, check, like talk to your CEO and so on. So that just took several days in order to arrange and get it, and eventually, like, it took more than a week to get proper SSL certificates. So bear in mind that some security features may require offline communication, and that could be problematic during pandemic. Also, we had to arrange penetration testing done by a third-party company, and the thing that these guys are usually quite busy, and they have a queue, and penetration testing takes time, so you need to think about it in advance and schedule it up front. But also you would need to have some time to fix any findings or bugs they will discover. And last but not least, we have used AWS WAF feature, which is application firewall, in order to add extra security layer on top of our CloudFront and API gateways. I will get back for a second to talk about one more problem we got later. Like API gateway and Lambdas has certain limits, and it means, for example, you cannot send more data than 5 megabytes to it. So a single request should be smaller. And at one point, we got tablet devices integrated that were supposed to send big photos in high resolution to our backend system. And we had to use sort of workaround when our backend was generating special pre-signed URLs for S3 service, and send this pre-signed URLs back to the tablet device, which can then later use it in order to upload large files. So if you ever would need to have ability to upload large CSVs or images or video files into your system when you're using serverless, you would struggle if you have more than 5 megabytes, and using pre-signed URLs we together with Amazon S3 would help you to achieve your goals. Okay. Sooner or later, our system had to grow, and one of the requirements we got is to provide some real-time analytics capability. There was a request to build a real-time dashboard which was showing different statistics about current COVID testing status during today. And it was supposed to be updated in a close to real-time fashion. So as soon as doctor sets diagnosis, the stats should be updated. It's different charts like with breakdowns per age or per location or per city, supposed to be updated, and data should be delivered to the client. And in order to implement such a functionality, we have used WebSocket feature from API Gateway. So you can, API Gateway gives you capability to build not only REST APIs but also WebSockets. And so how it's done, user connect to API Gateway, and you need to have Lambda that will do the connection handling, handling messages like connect, disconnect, or whatever else. We have also implemented custom authentication to check that this user is authenticated, because one of the first messages he was sending was a JWT token, which we were validating. Once connection were saved into database, and in the meanwhile, our backend has produced some data into database. So whenever state was updated, we have enabled DynamoDB streams in order to have this real-time capability. So as soon as data was updated, DynamoDB was producing data into stream. We have separate Lambda aggregation function that was doing the necessary aggregations and saving aggregated data back to the database. So it's pretty much like database trigger that was acting on a change in the database. And as soon as aggregated data was updated, we also had enabled DynamoDB streams for aggregated data table. And this stream was consumed by updates publisher Lambda. So whenever data was updated, it was checking who is subscribing, and after that sending updates to API Gateway, and then API Gateway was pushing data back to back office users who were seeing that charts are updating in real time. We have used D3GS as well and enabled animated updates, so it looks pretty nice when it's moving in real time. What else? I mean, as an alternative, you can also use AppSync. Amazon offers you also capabilities to enable real-time data delivered into front end using AppSync, but that uses GraphQL as an API. Still, also it's more packed as a service, and you don't have to implement all this logic of connection handling and so on. So AppSync does it for you, but it has other limits, and you have to follow all the GraphQL limitations as well. So in order to enable event-driven analytics, Amazon offers DynamoDB streams. So any table can produce a stream. As an alternative, you can produce data into Kinesis data stream, which is another managed service. And Amazon also offers managed Kafka, and with managed Kafka, you can do whatever you want in terms of message broker and data streaming. So for other use cases, if you need to manage your workload in a high scale, Amazon offers simple queue service and simple notification service where you can implement different patterns. And last but not least, Amazon recently released Event Bridge for general usage. Actually, Amazon extracted it from the CloudWatch and made it as a separate service. So Event Bridge is some sort of alternative to Kafka, where you can have topics and you can have events published there, but it gives you several nice features. First of all the Amazon Web Services are publishing their events into Event Bridge, but you can have your own custom topics and you can publish your events there. What it gives to you, it gives you events schema discovery, so you can just press a button and it will analyze the data in the which was published to event stream and document schema for you. And second benefit, you can do event replay. So you can record events coming to the Event Bridge and save it and then replay, for example, for load testing or any other purpose. Okay, as a last point in terms of how our system was evolving is we had to build a reporting layer, and in order to keep it serverless and not to introduce SQL databases, we decided to use Amazon Athena together with Glue. Those two services gives you ability to build your own data lake. So how it was happening, we had a scheduled Lambda that was dumping data from DynamoDB and saving dumps into S3 bucket with experts. We had Amazon Glue service configured to run Glue crawler on this data periodically. And what it does, it analyzes the data, discovers the schema of the data, and creates tables and partition definitions in the Glue data catalog. Glue data catalog is something like Apache Hive, so it contains the definition of the data and data structure where it lives. It's like SQL tables, but without actual data. The data is saved on S3 buckets, and then you can use Athena. Like for example, we had another trigger that was triggering another Lambda, and this Lambda was getting list of queries to run from the DynamoDB, executing these queries one by one. So Athena was reading data from S3 buckets, saving results to another S3 bucket, and what also possible, Athena can create new tables and update partitions if needed. I will talk a bit later about it. And basically, we made this reports bucket available with IAM access to the analysts who were downloading reports and analyzing the data. So yeah, when you dump your data for crawler to analyze, it's important to follow the Hive partitioning style. So you need to name folders in a certain way. For example, you can save your daily dumps into some S3 bucket, but then you name folders like year equals year value, month equals 10, day equals 21. And then when Glue will analyze this data, it will know that, okay, data is partitioned. First partition is named year, second partition named months, and so on. If you won't have this, it will be named as partition 0, partition 1, partition 2, which is not nice. And Athena got two major upgrades in 2018. It got support for so-called CTIS queries, which is create table as select. So it means now in Athena you can also create new data or change data format and so on. So you can do some ETL jobs using Athena SQL and create new data. But also in September 2019, they added support of insert into statements. It means you can insert data into tables and it will create new files in S3 bucket in a proper location, in a proper format, compress it if needed, and create new partitions in the table definition as well for you. So you can build a full proper ETL and data warehouse or data lake just using Athena engine because it supports everything you might need. Okay, a few words about lessons learned during this project development. yeah, you definitely should watch the limits, because Amazon has limits for their own services. Like very quickly we have faced limitations that, like, for new accounts only 100 S3 buckets are allowed to be created, so we have to create more. Lambda code storage is like limited by 75 gigabytes, which is a lot for code. But when we actually used serverless.com as infrastructure as a code, and we had automated Bitbucket pipelines that were building all the development branches all the time with every commit, and we ran out of Lambda code storage pretty fast. So you have to use some pruning plugins that are cleaning Lambda code storage, because serverless.com creates a new version of Lambda code every time you deploy it. Simple ML service quotas. That's very important to watch for, because as our service was growing, we were quickly like hitting the limits, and without proper monitoring in place, you can be you can have a fuck up basically, because AWS support is not super responsive. Whenever you get whenever you hit the limit and you need to increase it, it takes from 12 to 24 hours for them to process your request. And as a result, they may not increase your limit, but send you some questions which you have to answer. Then you answer these questions, and again, you have to wait 12 hours or more. And if you already hit your limit, it means no emails are sent to your users, and they are just dropped. They're not put into some queue or whatever. They just rejected. That's important one to monitor for if you're using it. And another one is compliance rate. That's about spam complaints. Sooner or later, users may mark your emails by spam, or email service can do it automatically just because you was not very lucky. And if you get very high compliance rate, Amazon can block your email sending functionality and put your account on suspension. We actually had the case when our developers were building new feature and have released it, not have released it, but started to test it on test environment. And they made a mistake, and their code was sending a lot of emails with same content just to every back office user, which was huge number of messages like spam. And email servers start to treat these messages as spam automatically, and they start to send compliance back to Amazon. And Amazon saw a rise of spam compliance and decided to put to suspend our account, because we were breaking their reputation rules. That leads to another lessons learned. So first of all, like, you need to buy, like, if you release such a thing to production, you need to really buy AWS support plan, and not just developer one, but business one or premium one, in order to get faster responses time. Still in Amazon, you need to you still have to raise a request, which will take 12 hours, but then you can phone call or open a web chat with the premium support and ask them to escalate and make it faster if it's business critical. Yeah, it's better to keep your production environment on separate AWS account due to this, because if you get blocked due to issue happening in development environment, you don't want to have production impacted. So keep your production on another AWS account. And also, important note about root account, like, that was something like perfect storm. There was actually a rainstorm happening in the city where one of our offices were located, where the root account holder was there, and city got flooded. There were electricity outage. There were huge traffic jams. Cell phones were not working great, and So basically, we were not able to get hold of root account holder, because only root account can upgrade your AWS support plan. So it took a while to get support plan upgraded and then to contact premium support to expedite the other requests. And as another lesson learned, we also sooner or later decided to integrate with alternative providers like for email delivery and for SMS, and have ability to switch. So if one decided to block us, we can switch to another one and use it in the meanwhile, while we will be dealing with support. That's it from me for today. There will be some time now for questions, and I can also tell a little bit more about what do we have in Symfony right now. So which might be interesting for you, right now we have about 6 open positions for DevOps of different seniority, like lead, seniors, and middles. Those for different clients like Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, Endogen, Ubiquiti, and ClearScale. Probably important thing to tell about Symfony solutions and why our employees like to work. There are certain benefits which are quite unique. So one of them, called Workstation, is that like whenever you join a company, you get your laptop from the company and it's yours. It means it becomes your property. You can leave it whenever you decide to leave a company, it stays with you. Workation, it's a nice bonus for those who are working in the office still. You can request a workation and go to and travel to some other country like Spain or, I don't know, Macedonia, let's say, and work from there, no problems. And even more, it was like in Poland, we are also having so-called Symfony Anywhere, means we have quite a lot of remote positions. So you can work from your home city whenever you leave it and be fully remote. You don't have to come to the office. You can work from home forever. And as usual, Symfony offers medical and life insurance packages, which are important, especially right now in the pandemic, and all the other benefits like giving you ability to learn, improve yourself, and enjoy working with other peers. Okay, so any questions?
Oleg, I have one question, but before we start the technical part, you said that you have some of open positions, but are they all in this serverless project, like you talk about it here?
Most of them, like our company right now, mostly focus on AWS partnership, and most of them will be connected with AWS. And yeah, I mean, at least half of the positions will be definitely connected to serverless as well.
Okay. And what is the about this serverless? Did your team has experience with serverless before you started this project that you were talking about?
Yeah, that's a good question. Team actually had very little experience at the beginning, and that was causing some issues. So it was important to have someone, at least somebody in the team who knows it, so who can mentor team members, because there are certain limitations, especially in the area of development, which they have to think about. And it's you saw it's already like quite a lot of Amazon services you have to learn, because each of them have its own API, its own documentation. It's kind of huge, and it takes time to learn, definitely. But what I like the most, that most of the developers said that they were like it was hard, but they were enjoying at the end, and they were satisfied with the results they got. They never thought that they can build such a thing in such a short period of time.
Okay, and what is the size of the team? How many persons do you have now?
So on this project we had around 10 people working. Means there are three developers focusing on front end, 3 on back end, a couple QAs and DevOps.